My husband and I live in a very small space, and we are trying to live a minimalistic lifestyle, but we still enjoy playing games every now and then. So before we moved, we had a lot of board and card games, and we did purge most of them in our initial move here, but we still had quite the pile that we were attached to. Now that we have lived here for over 2 years, I figured it was time to get everything out of the game cabinet and review what we truly wanted to keep. First, we pointed out a couple of games we were ready to get rid of because we've played them enough and it was time to admit the season for that game had passed. Second, we worked on playing through several games that we could get rid of after we had played them once. Since all of these games either tell a story or unravel a mystery, I consider these one-time use games. I would consider buying another game of this type again in the future, but only one at a time. I made a mistake by letting these pile up. Next, there were a couple of games that we had not played since we moved here, but we thought we still liked them, so we agreed to play them one more time and then decide whether or not to keep them. We played one right away and decided it wasn't a good match for us as a couple after all. We have 2 complex card games that we have not played, and we'll need some time to learn how to play and test a couple of times, so we are keeping those for now. Most of the games we chose to keep were naturally small-sized, like Uno or Dungeon Roll, or smaller versions of regular board games, like Monopoly Deal and Life Stories. All of these fit perfectly in the single container, and it takes up very little space. We also kept this Who Knew game because it's out of print, and it's a simple party game that both kids and adults enjoy. And we have a tub of dice because my husband periodically leads a tabletop role-playing game for the dads and kids from our church. So of all our board and card games, this is what we decided to keep for now, and this is what we decided to get rid of. And the good thing about a minimalist mindset is that it's a process, not a one-time event. So I can still feel successful about this purge, even though I imagine getting rid of more at some point in the future. And maybe you've noticed that we don't really have any board games anymore, and that might make you sad, but don't worry, we have some ideas on how to scratch that board game itch if it comes back. 1. We can take advantage of our social network. We have several friends who also like a variety of board games, and collectively, they own quite a lot of games. 2. We live reasonably close to a couple of game cafes that have tons of sample board games for customers to play. And these venues have large tables for group games that we would never be able to fit in our tiny home anyway. 3. There are digital versions of many board and card games, so if we're thinking about getting a game but don't have room in our cabinet, we can always consider purchasing the video game version. Ultimately, we are making progress with being content with fewer possessions and recognizing that we are blessed even to have this many ways to spend time with each other, friends, and family. I hope that by sharing our process that you will also be encouraged to be content with less.